2 years ago, now if you remember the Challenger accident is when Krista McAuliffe was killed, and she was going to be the first teacher in space. So for 20 plus years, her backup, a lady named Barbara Morgan, trained and trained and trained and very patiently waited till the day that she would become the teacher in space. She was her backup. So I think it was 3 years ago, Barbara did get to go up. And a friend of mine who happened to be a shuttle pilot, who collected some of my work, he asked me if I would design a painting commemorating the first teacher in space. So when I went to high school, the backpack hadn't been invented, believe it or not. So we used to, Mark is laughing, we used to carry our books either, painfully under our arms, or we would use a belt even. So I thought, well, I'm gonna make the shuttle arm into a belt and make some books. And then someone had a cool idea. They said, well, let's ask Barbara what her favorite book is. And so I said, yeah, and I'll paint the title of the book on there, and it's Rudyard Kipling's Just So Stories was her favorite book, being a teacher. So I included that into the picture, which kind of personalized it. There was some talk she might take it. It might be presented to her in orbit on the shuttle, which never happened because they said it was too big and that sort of thing. But during the mission, they actually did wire it up to her, so that was kind of fun. And then we got to meet her, and she got to get the original painting. Again, continuing with my astronaut affiliation, this is what happens in life: is when one door opens, then other doors open, and then you become sort of this commodity, and things flourish and flourish. So, one of my strongest advice to you all as potential professional artists is to, don't be shy. Open as many doors as you can. Look under rocks. I mean, you have to really explore and not be afraid to get your work out there. I think that's one of the most important messages I can bring to you today. I got to meet the guy that took that picture of the Earthrise. His name's William Anders, and he was one of the first 3 people to orbit the moon back in '68. And it was the 30th anniversary of Apollo 8, and his wife commissioned me to do a painting, so I thought, well, I have to use the figure 8 somehow, and I wanted to use the Earth. And I put 3 starfish in there for the three Apollo 8 astronauts. Now, Jim Lovell, who was the commander of that mission, he later became famous for Apollo 13, and we've all seen that movie probably. But there's a big argument that's gone on for all those years about who took that Earthrise picture. And I attended at Air and Space a book talk by Jim Lovell, and he said, ladies and gentlemen, I took that picture. Now, I've talked to Bill Anders, and Bill Anders tells me that he took that picture. Somebody took that picture. Anyway, this is a tribute to Apollo 8, and it's a painting I did for Bill Anders, maybe the guy who took that picture. This is a strange picture of me in one of my big telescopes, because I really like to get out there and really feel the night air. I often joke and I tell people that the night is my favorite time of day, but that's not as good as Mark's joke. I even did a self-portrait. This appeared on the cover of a magazine called Sky and Telescope years ago, when they used to use artwork on the cover. And even in things that don't appear astronomical, I put little hints of astronomy. This was inspired by a solar eclipse that we witnessed in Spain. And if any of you have been outside during a solar eclipse, you see the light that filters down between the leaves. Instead of the nice little round discs of the sun, you see these little crescents, which is kind of an interesting phenomenon. And this is inspired by not only astronomy, but my love of Maine, because I love the ocean and the seashore. And one of the things I try to show in my work is this incredible connection that the nature reveals to us between the large and the small. And everywhere you look in nature, I find that you see this a continuance. There are things that are tiny and things that are big, but the patterns are repeating. So again, I often try to throw the viewer off or surprise them. This one actually ended up being used for a book called Ghosts on the Coast of Maine, was that it? Yeah, which had some King horror stories in it. I didn't intend it to be sort of a scary picture, but of course, one of the things that is also part of my sort of art of stewardship, which I'll talk more about in a minute, is the love of the environment. And you sometimes don't think of the night sky as part of the environment, you know, but let me explain it to you this way. Most of us operate during daylight hours. You know, the bulk of animals on the earth, over 75%, are nocturnal. But for whatever reason, human beings have chosen to operate during daylight hours. In the daytime, on a clear blue day, you don't see really the sky. What you see is the atmosphere illuminated by the sun. So when you're out at night, on a clear night and away from city lights, this is when you see the real state of affairs. This is when you really see the Earth as a tiny orb in space. So unfortunately, city lights have taken away the Milky Way from urban regions. There are attempts to alleviate that. There are movements to try to create what they call smart lighting, which is something I could go on for a long time about. But we can certainly do better energy-wise, and the term is light pollution, and that's when we shine so many bright lights up that we can't see the stars anymore, which is a real tragedy if you think about generations of kids growing up in urban locations that have never seen the Milky Way like this. But those of you who live in Maine, or if you live in a rural place, you know that the Milky Way is an amazing thing, and it's part of our heritage. So we have to work to preserve that. I did live in Italy for a while, which was an amazing thing, because obviously Italy is the home of so much classical art and sculpture, and it was just an amazing experience. But what it really made me appreciate was how incredible the United States was, and how diverse we are. When you live in a more homogeneous society, you start to long for the wonderful mix that we have in the United States. And we were there for a year, and after we came back, we had to have our licenses renewed. And my wife and I, we went to the MVA, and we said, wasn't it an amazing experience to see all those different cultures? You know, so it's, you don't know what you got until it's gone, as Joni Mitchell would say. So again, I was inspired by Italy, the Etruscan carvings that are there, and I always try to incorporate and use my imagination thinking about other worlds. This is an interesting story. I actually was contacted by someone while I was in Italy, and this is my little makeshift studio in a town called Montepulciano. Translation is Hill of Fleas. But it was an amazing 14th century villa that was all marble on the inside, and everywhere you looked, it was just an amazing vista. So one day we received a phone call from a person that I knew that was actually connected with President Clinton. And they asked me if I would do a painting for his re-election. They assumed that he would be re-elected, and of course they ended up, that's what happened. And they wanted it to be a celebratory painting. So here I am in Montepulciano, Italy, and I get a phone call from the United States, and they say, we'd love for you to do this painting. Well, when do you want it? Well, next week, you know. I said, well, number one, I'm in Italy. Number one, next week is kind of soon. So anyway, I sat down and I started working on it. And what I came up with was what I called Victory for America. Now, you can see in the ribbons, you see the 96 in the bottom, because that's the year of the re-election, so I put that in there. But if I go back to the picture, I think you can see the still life there in the upper right. You see the apple? There, it's in a little box with some paper sticking out. So this is something I rigged up, and I'm working on the watercolor painting there. Now, the real fun part of the story is that I finished the little watercolor painting. I rolled it up in a cardboard tube. Those of you that know anything about Italy, the bureaucracy there, particularly in the mailing system, is not like we have here. So to get it out of the country, I just rolled it up in this little tube and said it was worth $25. It was a poster. And it came all the way back to Washington. They unrolled it, and fortunately they liked it, but they said, well, you know, now that we have it, we really want you to sign something on there for the president. Like, you know, good luck, Bill, or something like that. So they said, we will send you an airline ticket, and you will come back to the United States, come over to the White House, and sign the thing. I said, no. I'm not leaving Italy to sign something, not even for the president. So they said, oh, okay. Anyway, they hired a courier to bring it on an airplane. That guy came in a little truck into our town. This is a little tiny town in Italy. Drove up, unrolled the painting. I said, you know, good luck for your second term, Mr. President, and took it back. Your tax dollars at work. But It was kind of funky. So anyway, and President Clinton, let's see, yeah, President Clinton got the original painting, and there's my wife and 2 children, and we got to present it in the Oval Office. How cool is that? That's pretty amazing. I guess Bill looks happy. I don't look that happy, though. That's the problem with that picture. I have to smile more. But there were several reproductions made of the piece, and this is even another weird thing, that were actually signed by President Clinton, myself, and Vice President Al Gore. They were signed. Okay, I signed them, the prints, these are the reproductions, I signed them in the White House. We went there for a special event. But they told me, and perhaps Congresswoman Edwards can explain this because you're in the political thing, neither Bill Clinton nor Al Gore could sign them in the White House. They had to go across the street. You'll have to explain that to me later, why that, there must be some technical reason. But they couldn't sign them in the White House. So this is the painting that actually started the so-called art of stewardship. And again, the same friend of ours who was a big supporter of President Clinton, I had done this painting in 1991, and it was similar to some other paintings I've done in that I use apples a lot in my pictures because I have a fascination with Isaac Newton and the fall of gravity and all that sort of thing. Well, this one I had this novel idea that I would paint the Earth, kind of like Yuri Gagarin's Earth, and I knew right away when I finished the painting that it had some special quality because people started to remark about it. So I had this idea that maybe it should go someplace important where maybe more people could see it than just a single collector. So anyway, my friend took this painting and she had some ideas. She had some connections with the Boston Museum of Fine Arts. Just by chance, Bill Clinton came to visit her in her home. And when he went to the top of the stairs, he saw the picture. And he was kind of intrigued by it. And when you're the president, you can do things like, can I have that? And mostly people say yes. So that's kind of what happened. So the Clintons actually ended up having this painting called Stewardship. And it hung in the White House for the next 4 years. And I believe it's somewhere in their private residence, which I haven't seen. But so this got me started on this, again, the power of imagery, the thought of seeing the Earth from far, the burden that we're all, and it really is a burden, the burden that we all in 2011 are aware of, the fragility of the Earth. So like any good politician, what the president has, the vice president needs also. So the DNC, which is the Democratic National Committee, they said, well, President Clinton has a stewardship painting. What about Al Gore? He's like Mr. Environment, right? So I said, oh, okay. So anyway, this is Stewardship 2, and this is Al Gore's painting. And I wanted to show, again, the Earth, but it's in sort of a very crystalline, delicate sphere, and it's on shifting sands because we really don't know what our fate is. And you know, the ribbon, which I often use in my pictures, is kind of a takeoff on what the Navajos do in their rugs. You know, they have one line that kind of runs to the end to show that you know, the universe doesn't stop here. The universe goes on and on. So it was really cool, though. We got to go to the vice president's mansion, and do I have a picture of that? There's Al Gore saying, "What the heck is this?" Or maybe he's saying, "I didn't order this." But Mrs. Gore looks pretty happy anyway, and it was a surprise for him, which was really fun. And what I was most impressed by Al Gore, he's really a brilliant guy. Hope he's not sitting in the back somewhere. But how in a very short time, how he got up to a podium like this, and he talked about me like he knew me for 25 years. It was really impressive. It was really impressive. But the coolest part of the whole thing was that we got to sit next to Robin Williams, who was, you know, that was just that was pretty awesome.